to our guests. Thanks to our guests who joined us really, really early. Thank you so much, Ma, for coming on time. And we're just really excited today, as part of the Rivers 2050 Vision Project, today to be speaking with the really wonderful and really amazing Mrs. Koko Kalango. Before I hand over to Akelachi to take over the conversation, I will do a quick round of introductions, especially for those who might be joining the conversation for the first time, just to give you a bit more about what we're trying to achieve with the Rivers 2050 Vision Project. Okay. So if you plot a timeline from 2025 to 2050, the next 25 years, there have been a round of predictions that have been made about the future, right? So many of them, whether it's things like as it affects renewable energy or climate refugees, or even like diversification of economies needed for oil-producing nations and states. But we've picked out 5 of the ones that we think affect us really, really closely, from energy generation. Now that states have the power to generate their own energy, that's a conversation that we need to be having within the states as to how we would be generating our energy and meeting our local energy needs. 2032, Deloitte had predicted that Nigeria's oil reserves will begin to deplete. And in fact, the Tyndale Research Center had said for the world to keep the current heating level at 1.5 degrees, many of the big oil nations will have to be able to find ways to diversify their economy. And for us as a state, that's a big conversation that we're not having yet. And we think that this is one of the things that's a threat that's just 9 years, 10 years from now, that we definitely need to keep our eyes on. There are other issues like the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics saying that Rivers population will grow to 15 million people over the next 10 years. We're currently at 9 million. That's 4 million extra people over the next 10 years. Where would they school? Where would they live? What would they eat? All of those are questions that we definitely need to be asking ourselves. So as part of this project, we've been looking at these various issues as it relates to food security, culture and tourism, entertainment. Today we're discussing literacy and the Port Harcourt World Book Capital City project. And we're looking at how all of these things can sort of help us to make states a lot more future ready and ready for the future. All of the conversations, like I said, are housed on YouTube, just like today's conversation. We've had conversations on healthcare. We also had folks from the Qatari government come speak to us as well about how they were able to envision the Qatar National Vision 2030. And that was mostly led by young people like me and you, right? And they were able to do that and basically turn around their nation from a desert country to what they are today. So all of this information is out there on YouTube. For those who have not been able to join us, please do well to check it out. youtube.com/@policyshapers. As well on our website as well. So we have all the information there as well as to what we want to achieve, what we've been learning so far from this project and the town hall meetings we'll be holding. And shortly, the physical engagements we'll be having as well with leaders across the state. So please do well to stay in touch with everything. All of the information from these engagements, physical, virtual, survey, the statewide survey we're having across the local government areas will come together in this book, the Rivers 2050 Vision book, which will be launched next year. And funny enough, just like the Port Harcourt World Book Capital City project, it will be the first of its kind in Africa, which is actually a vision, a state vision that is led by the citizens. Usually state visions are led by the government, but I mean, knowing that our government currently is not in the best shape, citizens have taken that space and we're leading this project. And being a youth-led project, this would be a very, very, remarkable project for us if we're able to see this through all the way to the end. So so we're looking forward to that as part of the Rivers 2050 Vision Project. So just a recap of the Port Harcourt World Book Capital City project. I don't know if Auntie Keke remembers this photo. I had to go to my archives to find this photo from 2014, March 2014.
Wow, Iben, thank you so much for bringing this. You need to send me a copy.
I will. Yeah, this was 2014. And at the time, I was a journalist. I was writing for the Huffington Post. And I remember just how really proud I was about Port Harcourt City becoming World Book Capital, the first in sub-Saharan Africa. And, you know, despite being a very like lanky young man, I reached out to Ms. KK's office, and she was really, really like accommodating. She was happy to speak to me about the project and all that we seek to achieve. And, you know, that's how I was able to write this story that then eventually went up on the Huffington Post. And there's so many other stories, right? It really is a big deal. I think it's a big deal and a huge part of our story as a city. And it's really sad that the state government hasn't made as much effort to be able to like preserve that story. That's a huge thing. Like we beat 10 other cities around the world, including Oxford and Lyon, to become World Book Capital. And we had, as part of the project, had several authors from around the world coming to the city. There was the Africa 39 book that was published. We had Governor Amici at the time do readathons across schools. I don't know the last time we saw a governor read in River State. I'm sure that's more than 10 years now. But we had him come read. We had authors. We had various kind of showcases, book reviews, book conversations, panels, and stuff like that. And all of this kind of like buttress the power of literacy and why literacy is key for us as a state. But 10 years down the line, this is what we see now in our primary schools. These schools that at the time they were built were some of the best schools in the country, if not on the continent, with the technology and the investment that was made in them. Sadly, our public service hasn't invested as much in maintaining this, whether it's over political disagreements or whatever. But like as a state, we need to definitely do better in ensuring that we maintain the legacy. So the questions that Kela will be leading us to ask Mrs. KK, how can we revive our reading culture in the States? You know, what are some of the lessons from the World Book Capital City project that can be also, as young people, guide us as we think about the Rivers 2050 vision? And also, how can we like secure the government buy-in on development projects? Because I mean, Ms. Koko Kalango is not a politician, but she was able to get the state government to buy into the project. And that's how the Port Harcourt World Book Capital City project came about. So I'll read her bio now and hand over to Kela to be able to take us forward. Okay, so Ms. Koko Kalango is the founder of Rainbow Book Club, whose work is in promoting reading amongst young people. She was really instrumental, like we all know, in Port Harcourt being UNESCO World Book Capital 2014. She directed this project all through the year that we were capital city. She's a graduate of the Columbia University Publishing course. Mrs. Kalango holds an MA in International Relations and Strategic Studies from Lancaster University and a bachelor's in French from the University of Benin. She's an alumnus as well of Port Harcourt Primary School, which, by the way, Mrs. Kalango, is overgrown by weeds at the moment. I'm sure that must break your heart.
I know, it's terrible.
Yes. And the Federal Government Girls College, Abloma in Port Harcourt. Her passionate and creative work in the book industry has earned her several honors, including the Member of the Order of Niger, as you know, that's a national honor in 2014, the Sun Newspaper Creative Personality of the Year, 2014, Wimby's Female Achiever, Friend of University of Port Harcourt, to mention just a few. Under her oversight, Rainbow Book Club, now in its 20th year, is taking Africa's stories to the world through Talking Books Africa, which is an interview series with authors, and Raw Africa, which is a series of biographies of notable people for young readers. As we know, our history is being forgotten over the years. So Raw Africa is doing an amazing job in ensuring that these stories are being documented and passed down to the next generation. So thank you so much, Ma, again, for giving us your time. We don't take this for granted. I will now hand over to the amazing and beautiful Dr. Akelachi Keje and Bira, our rapporteur, to take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Eben.
Thank you so much, Eben. Can you all hear me?
I certainly can.
Great. All right. In 2015, well, between 2014 and 2015, Port Harcourt was put on the global map. We became the first Nigerian city, West African city, sub-Saharan city to be designated World Book Capital by UNESCO. And over the next 45 to 55 minutes, I'll be having a conversation with the woman that made this happen. Now, for you, my audience, I mean, you're passionate about River State. That's why you're here. Your takeaways would be, how did she make this happen? And how can we replicate this success in other sectors of River State that we are all interested in? Health, environment, transport, whatever it is. She's here to share how she made this happen. All right, my name is Akilachi Keje, and I'm reaching you from the city of Calabar. I know that Auntie Keke is from Calabar. She told me when I met her last year. But now you are from your bio, a Port Harcourt girl through and through. Primary school, secondary school, I mean the popular Port Harcourt names for education. And we're going straight into the conversation now. Can you tell us, thinking back to your primary and secondary education, how was the city Port Harcourt? What was the picture like for you, and how much can you say it has changed over time?
Thank you so much, Akilachi. So I've lived most of my life in Port Harcourt. I think we were in Calabar for maybe 4 years when my father was appointed a judge, and then back to Port Harcourt. Now, growing up, that's a bit of a bittersweet. I remember my Port Harcourt primary school days. Port Harcourt Primary was an international school. We had teachers from different parts of the world, even the population of students. So I remember English people from England, from the US, from Asia, some of my favorite teachers. I remember Miss Williams on the guitar, American, Mrs. Okara, who was married to the poet, American Jamaican. I remember Mr. Singh, so many of them. And as you know, Port Harcourt Primary is located in perhaps the best estate in Port Harcourt in terms of the old GRA, just across the road from the Isaac Borough Park. So it was all clean and green. And our education was not just academics, but we learned different musical instruments. We learned to speak French. We did theater, sports. And then down the road is Port Harcourt Club, another landmark of our great city. And Port Harcourt Club was just every Tuesday. Anyone who went to Port Harcourt Primary in those days, every Tuesday was movie night at Port Harcourt Club. And the movie screen was just in front or behind a lawn. So we'll sit on the lawn, have our burgers and chips, and watch amazing movies. And at Christmas, Father Christmas will come down in a Shell helicopter and land on the lawn, I tell you. So that's how magical our growing up was. And he'll come and give us gifts. When I grew up, I learned he was one of our friends' fathers. So that's what. So that was, Port Harcourt and Garden City. I understand the Queen loved her visit. I think that was about 1956 to the Garden City. And Federal Government Girls College, Abuloma. So a lot of us from Port Harcourt Primary School, the girls, the Nigerians, went on to Abuloma. You had to make like the best results and all that, because if you chose Abuloma as your first choice, and a lot of people around the state would have, so you had to be top to get into Abuloma. Lots of friends I made from Port Harcourt Primary went on to Abuloma. So we've remained lifelong friends. So as you know, Abuloma is part of the Unity Colleges. So it was a great place to get to know people from all around Nigeria because it was a potpourri. I remember taking a train journey from our school, an excursion from FGGC Abuloma to Kaduna. That was my only train trip in Nigeria. It was wonderful. I don't remember the trains having air conditioners or any of those fancy things. But I remembered Cyprian Ekwensi's book, Burning Grass. And now he talked about the train journeys. You see people from the north traveling with all sorts of things. It was a beautiful adventure. And then the Port Harcourt I grew up in, Saturdays I spent at the library on Bernard Carr. Incidentally, just this week, my Port Harcourt Primary School class WhatsApp group, someone posted a photograph, Alabo Denabo Hospital, posted a photograph of a building, just a little corner of the building, and said, who can guess what landmark this is in Port Harcourt? And someone threw a guess, and I said, no. I think they said Olympia Hotel. I said, it's not Olympia Hotel. I think that is the Bernard Carr Library. And Alabo said, Koko, you're too much. And I said, how can I forget the Bernard Carr Library? It's such an important part of my growing up. and played a significant part in the work that I'm doing today. So that's the library. But there was also theater. When we were growing up, my dad, our parents used to take us to theater in town. I don't remember what street it was, but sometimes it was at the Civic Center on Moscow Road. So on the stage, we will see the likes of Doye Agama, Komi Shekie, Barbara Soki, Elechi Amadi's plays. So we had that rich culture, that rich, nice, as you said, by heritage, I'm from Cross River State, but I never felt I wasn't from River State. And I don't feel I'm not from River State. I'm from both of them. It's so beautiful, you know. So these days where it's like, where are you from? Where are you not from? It would just kill, kill the society.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'll point out for now.
Mm. Wow, such an interesting and vivid picture you painted. It sounds like a scene from a foreign movie. I'm sure some of us would agree. Talking about Father Christmas coming in helicopter. Wow. Okay, this was Port Harcourt, not the one I met anyways. But just kudos to you guys. And we're going to come to talk about the literary angle now. Growing up, you said the library and the theater played strong inspirations to you. Could that be what inspired you to start the Rainbow Book Club? Tell us about the inspiration around starting the Rainbow Book Club. How was the reading culture in River State as at the time you started? And then look at it 20 years now. What's the difference?
Thank you. So it's important to point out that the motivation for starting the book club wasn't first external, but internal. What do I mean? From my personal experience. And that personal experience was enabled by the home I grew up in. Now, those things could have been in the city, but I wasn't exposed to them because of it was possible. There are many people who weren't exposed to those things because of the values they grew up with. So my family, education, and a rounded education, not just academics, but travel, reading widely, excursions was so important. My dad was a lawyer. My mom was an educationist. She founded Springfield Schools. It began as nursery, then primary, and secondary. So that was over 40 years ago, maybe almost 50 years ago. So that's the sort of home I grew up with. So that's, I'm trying to just say how important it is for parents or adults. You don't even need to be a parent, but the place of importance that adults play in the forming children. Now, because of those values, then look at the work that I went on to do. So in a family where the library was so important, we had a library of books. I was young when I read Benjamin Disraeli's biography. I read Nkrumah's biography because these books were on the shelf. My father was an avid reader, and so was my mom, the Reader's Digest and all that. So motivation was from my experience, how books have shaped my life, and then what books did for my children, because that's what I grew up with. That's what I know. So you pass it on naturally. So when the children were young, I would read stories to them. And both of them are great communications people. They top their classes when it has to do with writing, reading. And my daughter, I'm so proud, is now interviewing on Talking Books Africa. She's the main host on Talking Books Africa. And my son is writing plays and writing film scripts and all that. So the motivation was from my experience and also to make a difference, because I believe that we are richer when we give. So I didn't want to keep it to myself, because the Port Harcourt I grew up in was not the one I experienced in around 2005 when I had, you know, got married to a Port Harcourt boy, by the way. My husband went to University of Port Harcourt, and of course, by marriage, I'm from Bayelsa State. So I got married and we went abroad to the UK, then to the US, and then we came back home to Port Harcourt. I met a different Port Harcourt, and I'm like, Then it was all this militancy, and I said, no, this is not the Port Harcourt I grew up in. What can I do? So that also motivated me to begin. And at the time I began, I was living in Bonny Island. My husband was working with the Nigeria LNG, and we were in this idyllic estate, 24 hours electricity, golf course, world-class club, and all that, 40 nationalities. So we, the children my children were privileged. And I'm like, no, it can't be about us. You drive out of that estate and you see the underdevelopment. You see the youth just milling around, the children. And I said, no, we must do something. So I remember one summer holiday period, a long vacation. If you know, Bonnie, it's very rainy then. And I started a book club I started a book club in the community. I went to a pastor then because I knew that people would be happy to send their children if we did it in church because it's a safe environment. Yeah. So I said, can I run a book club here over this summer? And forward-looking guy, Pastor John, yeah. He said, sure. And I started. But when I started, I discovered that most of the children could not even read. So I stepped back. There was a lovely lady who was teaching people to read. So I engaged her to teach those children for me during the week. And then at the weekends, I'll come and run the book club. Now, I needed to fund that. So what did I do? I got creative. I went to the area where we lived, NLNG residential area, and ran a book club there. So the privileged people paid for their book clubs. And with that money, I ran the book club in the community.
In the community, yeah.
Yeah, and I ran my version of a mobile library, which just meant I put the many books in our house, my children's book, in the boot of my car, I would drive into those communities, bring out the cartons, put them out for the children, and they would read those books for a number of hours. I'll pack them back and go back to the estate. So over to you.
Wow. This is so inspirational. I mean, I started by asking you what inspired you, and you've in turn inspired me. Indeed, we are richer when we give. Wow, and I'm sure we're all learning strategies. See how she, created a strategy to leverage her existing people she knew to fund something that was like a non-profit anyways. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Auntie KK. And now let's talk about the big projects, the big one. So in 2013, you led projects that made Port Harcourt the UNESCO World Book Capital. In 2014, it beat 10 other cities, and I'd like to specify, it beat Oxford. It beat Lyon to become the first sub-Saharan African city to claim to this title. What kind of work went behind the scene? I can only imagine that it must have taken a lot of work. Can you share with us what kind of work went down at the backstage to make this happen?
Thank you, Akelachi. So the World Book Capital City is usually announced 2 years ahead of time. So by 2012, we knew we were World Book Capital. I'm talking about beating Oxford, very interesting, because when the BBC announced it, they said Oxford loses. And you know what that means, because that's the education capital of the world, So when it was Oxford loses, the next question is who dared to beat Oxford? But, the team at Oxford were so gracious. They sent us a lovely message congratulating us and saying, hey, they're here to support in any way. And Sharjah, we also beat Sharjah, which now has a vibrant book festival. It even has an African book festival. So, we need to sit up. So the announcement 2 years before, and once the announcement was made, we had to gather a team. Of course, now when you're bidding, you write all the things you're going to do, give an idea of costs. So now that we got it, we had to now take that costing to the government, because UNESCO gives the title to a city. So it's the government's work. But we were instrumental in the sense that we suggested we should bid both to President Jonathan, who at the time was running the Bring Back the Book project, and Governor Meji whom you know is a book lover and just pushed all that work in the city. So we had to go to them and say, this is, these are the costs. And the government set up the committee and set up an office, a secretariat, which I ran as the director of the project. We had to start recruiting hands, some from within our city and some from outside, who would be able to work with us to deliver an office of almost 30 people doing different things. Then a lot of brainstorming, as you can imagine, a lot of training, orientation within, and then the stakeholders, government, a key stakeholder, others in the book ecosystem, the publishers, the booksellers, the libraries. So there's all that preparation, then sensitizing. So we went to the London Book Fair in 2013 to sensitize them at Port Harcourt next year. It's us. And then, of course, we went to the World Book Capital before us, Thailand, Bangkok, in 2013, to just, other World Book Capitals were gathered there to just say, here we are. We were at the Lagos, the Nigerian Book Fair that holds in Lagos, just all that sensitization, press, through the press and all that, yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So it's a lot of work that went down. And journalists can be quite cheeky. Oxford loses, really?
That's what they said.
Wow, and then who won? Port Harcourt, our Port Harcourt. Because as a follow-up to that, as we work on the Reverse 2050 Vision project, I know that, government is and would always remain a key stakeholder in things, in projects like this. And we were fortunate enough to have the buy-in of the state government and even President Jonathan at the time. Can you share with us how you were able to get that buy-in? And is there any advice you have for us on the project, on Reverse 2050 project, because we do need buy-in of government? How do you advise we do that? Yeah.
Okay.
You share strategies with us.
Yeah. So the greatest strategy to get buy-in on anything, I think, is to just keep working, keep doing what you're doing, keep at it against all odds. When you have an idea, it will make a way for you. I'm saying that because I never went to government for any buying or to sell. Okay, I'll tell you what I went for. So effectively, I started the work of the Rainbow Book Club in 2005, when we kicked off formally in 2005, when we brought Chimamanda in from New York to kick off the Get Nigeria Reading campaign with us then. So that was, and then the following year, Shoyinka turned 70. He just brought out a book. We reached out and said, oh, can you come and lend your voice to the things we're doing? And Governor Michi was in that audience when Shoyinka came. We'd usually end with so during the day, like with Chimamanda, we had children from the state read Purple Hibiscus, write a competition, and then the finalists we sent to her, help us choose the best, and she chose 3 of the best. In fact, the guy who won the first prize, she said, oh, this person really has potential. It's a great race. So the same thing the next year with Prof. So when Prof came, he was then Speaker of the House, Honorable Rotimi Amechi. He was in the audience. So I was just doing my work. Then when I decided in 2008 that we need to draw more attention to the lack of reading culture, we need to promote reading the more. And from our little experience, we found that the girls were more keen on reading than the boys. So it wasn't a cool or a macho thing. So I said, okay, we need to get the men to read to children. So that's why I went for the governor. So I contacted that Koko Peterside, now Dr. Peterside. He was a commissioner, because again, it is from this work that I knew he got to know of him. So I asked him, I said, I need the governor to do something for me. And he's like, what is it? I want him to follow me into a school. In fact, we'll start at my school, my alma mater, Port Harcourt Primary School, and read to children. And it was the Koko Pizza side that made that connection. Then I went to, so that took me before Governor Amechi. And when I get there, he says, Mrs. Kalango, okay, that's what you want. I should come and read. I say, yes, sir. He says, okay, now I have an assignment for you. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And he says, I want you to organize a conference that brings writers from all over the world to Port Harcourt. So that is how the connection came. It's a divine connection. So that's what happened. And then we started the book festival in Port Harcourt. And as we grew it from 2008, 2009, are you hearing me?
Yes, we can. I think Kella's internet just took out, but she should be back soon.
Okay, yes. Okay. Do we wait for her or do I go on?
No, go on. Feel free to go on.
Okay, she's back. Excellent. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So we started the festival in 2008 and went on 2009, 2010. And of course, we are doing this. We are gaining traction. Port Harcourt is becoming known as a book city, not just an oil and gas city. And we are watching the international space to see how we can project our city to the world in good light. Because remember, at that time, when we started, it was militancy. When you thought of Port Harcourt, it was, youth busting the oil pipes, and expatriates being evacuated, and kidnapping had started, and all that. So we now got to know about the World Book Capital initiative by UNESCO, which is a recognition every year of a city for its efforts promoting books and reading. So we took the idea to both President Jonathan and Governor Amechi, and both of them just keyed into it gladly. So that's what happened. So my advice to you, keep doing what you're doing, give it your best, work at it with all your heart, be excellent so that you cannot be ignored in your space. And I believe anyone that knows anything good and is genuinely interested in the good of the state would be happy to embrace and work with people like you.
Thank you so much for sharing those nuggets. So, one takeaway for me is one strategy for buy-in is just to keep doing what you're doing. Just keep working. And I'm sure every member of the team is listening to this. I will just keep doing what it is we're doing. But let's dig deeper and bring it down to what the landscape is today. Looking back 10 years, if you were to do this project, redo it today, is there anything you would do differently?
I must first say that it was a privilege to direct the project. It was, I learned so much. I grew as a person. You're managing different stakeholders. You're managing the government, various offices of the government, the negative, the positive. You're reaching out to corporate organizations. You are also interfacing with other players in the book industry, just so much. So I'm the better for it. What could I have done different? I would say less of government, maybe control, I would call the word, although the project belongs to the government, but I wish we had been given more of a free hand, so we don't get caught up in the bottlenecks and personal interests. And, I'm just like, what, I just want to deliver this project. So, I'm not interested in all those other things that come with doing anything with government. We just want to deliver. We just want to see our children reading. We want the youth to take on reading as a cool thing. That's what we want. So more of private sector funding, I would say, because whoever pays wants to dictate the tune. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever pays wants it. And forgive me, all our government people on this call. I see government as the necessary evil we have to deal with. Just We just have to work with them because I mean they say God, government, the saying. But anyway, we just want to make an impact is what we want to do. But yeah, we have to find out how to work with governments. We're going to be taking questions pretty soon. So if you have questions, Eben, would they have to type them in the chat, or they can, unmute themselves? How's that going to go?
Yeah, whatever works best for them. If they want to unmute and speak, they can. Yeah.
Okay. Or you can just start dropping your questions in the comments section in the chat. I would start getting to people's questions pretty soon. And I'm sure a lot of us, or quite a number of us, have questions for Auntie Keke. All right, Auntie Keke, let's move on to the legacies from the World Book Capital. Which of the legacies are you the most proud of? I know that just like some of the pictures Eben shared at the beginning, those pictures would be heartbreaking. And looking at where you were at the time, the kind of schools Amaechi came to read to, and looking at what they are now. But what are the positives? What are some of the legacies you're proud of?
Thank you. The legacies are tangible and intangible. Intangible, look at the wonderful work people like you, Eben, and Akelachi, and several others. Someone puts in the chats that they remember when Governor Amaechi came to Port Harcourt Primary to read. So I get these messages from time to time where people tell me, oh, I'm now with the UN in Abuja, and it's because of the work of the Rainbow Book Club that I read. I have a bag that sort of like a briefcase that wherever I go, or people stop me a lot. And we love this. Where did you get this? Where did I get it? I went to the fashion souk in Lagos. And some guy who is a big fashion guy, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. He's like, Miss Kalango. I'm like, yeah, hi. It's like, oh, I was in University of Port Harcourt. I was an active part of the book festival. I'm like, really? And I get this all the time. And he says, I have a gift for you. And he gives me this bag. How do you quantify that? How do you quantify people who are now writing books? We have one of our authors from the Songhai 12, Miss Mazi. Anyway, Linda Mazi, I think. She was one of those long-listed for the Nigeria Prize for Literature. And she took part in the Songhai 12, which was a program we did for upcoming writers, where we threw it open for people to compete, to get a space for 12. And we took them to Songhai Farm, where they were for 2 weeks, a week, I can't remember, but at least a week. And we had experienced writers like Dr. Igosa Imaswen, who runs Narrative Landscape. We had Molara Wood, we had Lindsay Barrett, writers like that. I believe maybe Obari Gomba, who helps them in their skills. So you have people doing this. Jowo Ile, who I understand too was an integral part of the festival. That's part of it. But the tangibles, 200 book clubs we set up and ran that year, 200 book clubs. We set up, I think it was about 9 seed libraries. So libraries in orphanages, libraries in a home for street children, and all that. What about SPDC, Shell, the international oil company? Because of the World Book Capital project, built a library, a world-class library that can seat 350 people. Then we published about 9 books. I'll tell you one, Port Harcourt by the Book, Volume 1, Volume 2. These are pictorial journeys of the World Book Capital. There we interviewed people like Gabriel Okara, Elechi Amadi. These guys are not with us anymore. Minjiba Ateli, who was died recently at the age of about 88. She's from River State. She won a competition organized by an American president, and she got to go to the US. And she had tea with the president. These are people from River State. We got them in those books. Their voices are still speaking from those books. Then we had the Walking Book Project. We worked with children in the 23 local government areas of our state. We worked with them and their teachers to craft stories from their local governments, and they did. And we edited that and published in a book. After that, we replicated that nationally, the 23, how many, 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. We
Wow.
published that book. As Eben said, the Africa 39 project, the Africa 39 writers have even been recognized on Oprah. So a lot of, Chimamanda is one, Lola Shoneyi, who we are proud is hosting the Arcade Festival, and many others. So the Africa 39 project was a collaboration with Hay Festival in the UK to select and celebrate 39 of Africa's most important writers under the age of 40. So we managed that as part of the World Book Capital project. And then an excerpt or a writing by all of them was published by Bloomsbury. That's part of the legacy of Port Harcourt World Book. What about the book festival? We have the book festival. You know, when we had Canny Reeve, yes, in the year leading up to the festival, for the first time, we had a float of books. We had dancers, instead of wearing bikinis and distracting people, we had dancers wearing books, you know. So these are the sort of positive things we want the young people to see. We want to portray to the society. And then we used to have books on the stage. You know, we had throughout the 12 months of the World Book Capital, we had a book of the month. And we called that a program Books in the Air. So we had people like Akelachi on radio, and we had the Funky Four. I think that's their name. They're now, what's the Flatmates? They're now, a lot of them are acting in Flatmates. But they used to review, we'd go on air and talk about our books. So the legacy is wonderful. And then, of course, there's a Port Harcourt World Book Capital primary school, just behind, near St. Cyprian's Church, behind where we had our general hospital, the hospital we knew growing up. I don't know if it's still there. So those are some of the legacies. I'll just leave it there. Oh, should I talk about the Bring Back Our Girls campaign?
Yes, please.
That was highlighted on that stage by Professor Shoika in his speech. And then Obi Ezekwesili, former Minister of Education and Vice President of the World Bank, and pioneering board chair of Rainbow, came on the stage, invited me on the stage and said, let us bring back our girls. And it was from that platform, that hashtag started, that went viral around the world. And you had people like Michelle Obama, David Cameron, Bono, Malala, saying, bring back our girls from that stage. And then, of course, we had great Nigerian musicians, young ones, with Burna Boy in the front, singing our World Book Capital song on the stage that day. I'd leave it there for now.
Indeed, tangible and intangible legacies. I can just, please, I need you to blow up the reactions with your applause. I can see Dr. clapping at every single legacy you've been mentioning, and that is exactly how I feel. Some of them I knew about, some of them I had no idea about. Yes, someone is raising up their hand. Even if there's a comment in the chat that you need to draw my attention to, just let me know, right? And just before I start taking questions, let me just ask this. Someone said in the chat, I think it was Andrew, he said continuity is an issue in politics, or would I say in government. So what's your advice to River State government on how they can sustain all these legacies you've talked about, the World Book City Project, Capital, and you know how we can reach more global heights, how we can expand on these legacies and even sustain the ones we have?
Yes, of course. So values, you know, what are our values? And when we are thinking, we have to think beyond ourselves. You know, we have to think of my children, our grandchildren. You're talking about Vision 2025, 2050, I'm sorry. By that time, I'll be maybe 82, 83. And I'm thinking of my grandchildren, great-grandchildren even at that time. You know, would I be able to proudly tell them, I want you to come and live in River State? So values, we need to recognize that there's a problem. There's hardware and software in development. So hardware, the bridges, the buildings, software, the people. I would say we prioritize the people. Otherwise, you put the hardware, billions into the hardware. But if the people are not developed, those people will burst the pipes. Those people will make the hardware run down. So it is so important. And then there's an emergency in education, in the education sector. We keep talking about the state of emergency. The true state of emergency is with the education sector, I would say. So people need to be empowered mentally. Today, we are dealing in a knowledge economy. It's an era of ideas. So it's not just even literacy, about literacy rates. It's about critical thinking. It's about innovation and so much more. We must create the enabling environment. And then the wonderful things that were done. The wonderful things that were done. Until today, I am on the UNESCO World Book Capital network. So all the World Book Capitals, they take us every year. We have a meeting in the current World Book Capital. This year, it was Strasbourg in France, and I'm representing Port Harcourt. When they're talking, I'm so sad to say that I'm ashamed because I can't tell them that our city is not doing much after the World Book Capital. It's a source of shame to me. And so I would say, can we even sustain the things we did? Can we sustain that? Now, those book clubs in schools, it wasn't just the book clubs, it was equipping of the libraries. So the book club books were donated to the schools. The public schools had functional libraries. So those thousands to each of the schools. Then there was training for the teachers, training for volunteers. And the idea was, after the World Book Capital, you can continue. I know some of the schools continued, but it's not very easy. They need encouragement, and we're not lacking in resources. That's why I talk about values. What about the libraries? When we won, and I said to the government, we cannot be World Book Capital and we don't have functional libraries. You want me to still be going to the library I was going to when I was in Port Harcourt Primary School? That's fine, but I want other libraries. And part of what we said to them is build libraries. And we did not handle the project of the libraries. No. When I saw what was going on, I said, okay, take the libraries, let us do the software work, which is a real work. I'm not interested in contracts and all those things. So handle that. I don't know if any libraries were built. You would tell me if they built libraries in the 23 local governments and even around Port Harcourt. But continuity, purpose, let's be sincere. Let's think beyond ourselves. Let's think about our children and our grandchildren. I think I'll end here.
Thank you. Values, values, values. I like the way you explain it in terms of IT. There's hardware and then there's software. I think the hardware can't do much if the software is not properly programmed. And maybe I'll just take a moment to mention that the Ministry of Youth Development is currently calling for applications for a behavioral modification training, the first of its kind. So it's not just about hard skills now. They're saying we've trained these people in skills so much, we need to go back, just like what Auntie Keke said. There has to be a value training. And my mom, who happens to be the permanent secretary, is so excited about this. She said a dream of 8 years is finally coming to pass. And I really do hope that positive fruits come out of. So I think we're beginning to write, maybe, hopefully, thankfully. I see 3 hands up. So before I go back to my questions, maybe I start with Daboye. Yeah, he was the first person that raised his hands. So Daboye, quickly, if you can unmute yourself and just ask your question.
Okay. So thank you, Project 2050, for putting together this webinar. So I saw this on Facebook yesterday evening. I usually don't go on Facebook. I don't know. I logged in and then I saw it. And I was excited when I saw it because I've never met the Auntie Keke, you know, like like you called her. So when I saw it, I was excited because I want to meet her, even though it's remotely, yeah. And Ebenezer, my young friend who has been doing great work. You have met you, Dr. Akelachi. You know me, right? You can't remember. Okay.
No, maybe if I see your face, I will check.
Okay, so Benny Bodaboye, the young man that spoke at the event for last year International Youth
Economic
Day.
Summit. Oh, International Youth
Yes.
Day. Okay.
International Youth Day organized by
Okay.
your mom's ministry.
Ministry of Youth Development. All right. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So it's a good project. You're putting together a forward-looking, futuristic, and all that. Yeah. And I believe that education is a foundation in all of this, and that's why we're doing this. So for Auntie Keke, I'm curious because it's a lot. Port Harcourt is not known to be or seen to be a literary hub like the cities that we were able to beat, you know, thanks to your brainchild and all the work behind the scene. So my question is, how did you navigate the challenge of organizing a global event in a city not traditionally seen as a literary hub? That's one. Two, was there a moment during planning when you thought this might not work? And how did you push through? Yeah, because I'm asking these questions because the project 2050 team might likely, you know, experience something similar. And I pray they don't give up, you know. Yeah, so just that's my question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dabwe. And Auntie Kiki, you want to take that question now?
Thank you for
All right.
that question. Well, I would say that to manage a huge project like this, you know, understanding what it means to not just the city, the nation, and I dare say the continent, because we were second after Egypt, the second country in Africa to produce a World Book Capital. And I must point out, you know, Egypt is the cradle of education. You know, the pyramids, libraries, centuries ago. So for the first 3 years of the World Book Capital Initiative, UNESCO, it wasn't a competitive thing. UNESCO would sit down with the other judges from the International Publishers Association, the Booksellers Association, and the Library Associations, and they would say, what city do we give this to? You know, so even for a city in Egypt, it was given to them. So ours was the first time by merit that a city in Africa got the title. So, as I said, it shouldn't be about us. So it wasn't about Koko, it wasn't about Rainbow, it was about our city of Port Harcourt, our river state, Nigeria, Africa. So first of all, I talked about it's not been about us. So with a project like that, you have your eye on the goal. So you ignore the distractions. And I remember a saying, I heard this like an analogy of a king that had a prisoner. And he said, I'll release you if you can run with this spoon of water to the end without it spilling. And the prisoner got the spoon or a cup of water and was running. And on the right, people were cheering, you're doing well. On the left, people were jeering, shame on you. But the prisoner made it to the end. And the king said, how were you able to? And he said, oh, king, I had my eyes on the goal. So through the project, I had my eyes on the goal. That we've started it, we would deliver it. Were there times I wanted to give up? You better believe. You may not know, but there were times I actually went to the governor and said, sir, I'm stepping down from this projects, but he never accepted my whatever to step down. So we kept at it. Was there a second question? Have I missed? So how was I able to manage a multi stakeholder project, an international project like this? Was there a second part to the question?
Yes,
Maybe.
ma'am.
So he said, okay.
What was
So
that?
the second part of the question is, how did you navigate the
Okay.
challenge of organizing a
challenge
global
is-
event in a city not traditionally seen as a literary hub?
Yes, yes. So you need a lot of wisdom. You need the wisdom of the serpent and the harmlessness of a dove. So let me keep it at that.
I think you get the message that
All
way.
right, thank you, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to take a female now, but I'd like to crave the indulgence of the other people who have their hands up. If they can just type their question in the comment, I think it will be faster. That's just for us to properly manage time. So Ibiso, over to you. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Akilachi. It's nice to see you, by the way. Thank you, Mrs. Koko. Thank you, Ben, for such a wonderful session. When Mrs. Koko was speaking, I could see my childhood play out because I was always at the library. I live opposite the River State Library at Benetka. I was always at the library reading. And then I don't know if you were part of the Bring Back the Book by Elechi Amadi campaign that was going on then across coast. We were acting and reading Elechi Amadi's books. We even went to Silver Bed as a den. And so it was a wholesome experience for me as a young person who loves to read. I think Andrew, is it Andrew who just asked my question? But if I want to ask a question also, it will be, how do we begin to engage writers within our state to put up such campaigns, structure such campaigns for schools, not just government schools per se, because I was in a private school, but they also came to a private school to carry out such, campaigns. We acted, we danced, we turned some prose into drama just to keep us engaged. So how do we begin to work with the writers, and because right now, even the writers in our state do not have such visibility because writing is not something that is longer, appreciated in our present day as opposed to music and the rest. So how do we begin to give them that visibility and engage them to begin to create such clubs or such campaigns across school to just revive the culture of reading? So that would be my question, following your success over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, so you're like me, you went to the library on Bernard Carr. Excellent. Now, if a group was going to schools, maybe one a month, one a week, or how many would they be able to cover? So we need to bring back the book festival, because the book festival created the platform it was owned by the people. Our strategy in the book festival was, okay, booksellers, come and do your thing. You have the space to exhibit. So when people write us, tell us, oh, how can I, where can I buy this book? Come to the festival. You'll see all the booksellers. You can buy retail, you can buy wholesale. When people say, oh, how can I write better? Come to the festival. We had experienced writers teaching at the festival. Elechi Amadi, our revered writer, used to teach at the festival. Wole Soyinka has taught at the festival. Ngugi wa Thiong'o. We had everyone that mattered teaching at the festival. Book clubs, we had set up 200 book clubs. We have the capacity to replicate the same pattern because it has worked. We have a winning pattern. The plays, we opened these things up. We worked with the University of Port Harcourt Theatre Department, and they would come and do their thing on the stage. Then we brought professionals to work with our children in the state, the schools that came, and they would come up with a production during the festival. We need to bring back the festival because it gave a platform where all these things that are being done can converge annually to talk to each other, so that we're not just doing things. It's excellent to do things piecemeal. It's beautiful. I love the initiatives that have continued on ground, and I applaud those who are going on. against all odds. But it's always good to have a platform to converse, share ideas, cross-fertilization of thoughts and initiatives. That's what I would say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, IB. Thank you, Auntie Kiki. Let me just get back to some of my questions, and then I'll come back to the questions if we do have time. Iben, you're my timekeeper, please. And then I'll come back to some of the questions that we have from some people whose hands are raised. So Auntie Kiki, I think leveraging on what Ibizo said about, these things that we see, how can we bring them back here? Iben gave me the statistics. Adult literacy in Rivers State is high currently at 89.6%. This is adult literacy, but we have concerns for the coming generation. We do really worry. Many public schools today have failing infrastructure. That's not news. I mean, teachers, lack of teachers. How can we address this urgently? Maybe give me 3 action items. I know that you've already talked a bit about literacy, but 3 action items on how we can address this educational crisis. Indeed.
Thank you. I could contest that literacy rates because I'm asking where are the statistics coming from? How accurate are they? And as I explained earlier, it's even beyond literacy. So yes, you can read them. What are you reading? So that's why value orientation. I applaud the Ministry for Youth. You can tell your mom that's a great thing they're doing. Now, the wonderful thing about the book clubs is the shaping of minds. It's not just to come and, be reading and smiling. I've read a book. The careful scrutiny that goes to the choice of a lot of work behind the book club. The careful screening for the books that we use, because we are using books as a tool to shape the mind of the next generation, So I would say to them, books, the book clubs, and also the book clubs, the idea, our mantra for the book clubs was reading is fun. That's what it was. So you're not coming to cram for an exam. No, that's not what's going to do it. It's reading for leisure. Reading, that's where we are getting them. So we train them to run the book clubs. And one of the trainings we give the education is, this is not your classroom, stand up, cram this. No, let them be free to explore the books. Let them be free to share their ideas, to challenge things. So changing the mindset through books, whether it is the book clubs, whether it is developing of the libraries, whether it is the book festival, it's important to use books to change the mindset. It's important that we have the right priority. The second thing, action, priority. And if we say there's a state of emergency in education, don't just say it, back it with action. Then what? Then what do we do? I'll just drop a little story. I read about the American system, the body of the American government that plans for prison beds. Do you know how they determine how many beds they would have in the next 5 years, 10 years? They look at how many children are reading. That's what they look at. Yes. So over the years, societies that keep records and data and statistics found out that there's a direct connection between people reading and stayed out of crime and antisocial behavior. There's an example from America, a guy called, the guy who wrote The Big Picture, the pediatrician, he ran for president, Ben Carson. Ben Carson and his brother used to be at the bottom of the class. Their mom wasn't educated, but she discovered the magic between the pages of books. She knew that therein, between the pages of these books, lies the power to change a life. And what did she do? She made sure her children went to the library twice a week or so and bought books and read, and then wrote a summary for her summary. I don't even know if she knew how to read it.
If she
But
could
because
read
they
it.
were doing that religiously, it changed them and they began to top their class. Ben Carson became one of the greatest, and he still is. I think he's a pediatrician, I think, but a doctor anyway, a surgeon, I think, in the US, so that he even ran for president. So that's an example. And then when I talk about reading for leisure, it is that gave us writers like Cyprian Ekwensi, Elechi Amadi, Okara in their school. I believe it was Government College Ibadan. No, I'm sorry, Government College Umuahia, I think. A lot of good writers came from there. I think Achebe as well. They had a period every week where they would have to read, not to pass exams, but for leisure. So we have to take non-formal and informal education seriously. That's another thing I would say. Non-formal, informal. Informal is what is happening when you see young children twerking, on video. Informal, they are being oriented, educated by what they see adults in the society do. So we too must use the power of informal education. Then non-formal education is education that has a structure, a system, but is not rewarded in terms of grades in class. That's where the book clubs come in. I'll stop there.
Okay, so values, priority, taking non-formal education seriously.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. Let me take maybe one more question before Andrew. Andrew, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Kelechi, and this is a really great
Andrew.
thing. Yes, thank you so much. Good to speak to you again. So this is a great initiative, but it's good that at this point, like when Nigeria's situation seems bleak, there are a group of youths and there are a group of stakeholders that are looking into the future with the Rivers 50 initiative. So incidentally, in the work I do, through the Global Shapers Community and the World Economic Forum, I'm part of a Future 50 strategic foresight program. So it's like Future 50, like 50 youth from around the world are being trained in a fellowship to imbibe and to learn about how you can apply long-term thinking framework. So we had a conversation. We had a conversation with Ebenezer, yesterday, and he invited me to the call, and that's why we have this conversation. So through the call, I've seen a lot of good insights that have been shared, and particularly with continuity from government, because I worked for a while within the River State government, and in the role that I had, I was able to see how projects are selected, how policies are made, and all. And I could see that a lot of the times, political, like people look for flashy projects, and political consideration comes into the project, because nobody wants to see a project that will give you benefits in 50 years' time. They want to see that project that is just shiny and that can give you political capital for the next election. So that was something that I feel that in case we want to work with the government, you can always find allies, because within the government, it is wrong to think that nobody has good interest at heart. They're always champions. They're always strong subject matter experts. But the political will and the political climate, a lot of times, limits them. So in such initiatives like this, it's good to identify champions. I can see that there are some champions already that are on this call and that have been reached out to. So it's good to widen those networks and also build on the expertise and networks within the state, because collaboration is always key. So just going to my question, when I was during my youth service, I was a teacher in Akwa Ibom State. And in the school, they had one of the best libraries I've ever seen. Like, I looked through the books, there were a lot of classics. Like there was a classic on the military resistance in West Africa to colonial rule that I never knew about. And when I read that, me that felt that I was well educated, it opened my horizons. So something that I did, I was teaching government at the time, and anytime I go into the class, because the students did not even know about what Africa as a continent. They didn't know about Nigeria as a country. It was really that bad. So what I tried to do, there were a lot of maps, there were a lot of illustrated diagrams. When I was teaching, I ensured that I brought material from the library. to teach. And before you knew, our library that never used to have people, by the time I left the school, there were a lot of, like, it was always overcrowded. You had to physically chase out the students. So that comes to my question. So in these days now, we have disruptions from technology. Auntie Keke just talked about how people are twerking online. And also most of the times, like, attention spans have shortened. A lot of people get to the internet that has so much resources that you have. There are a lot of resources out there, but a lot of people are not interested in knowledge. You know, they just want that whole quick fix, that dopamine fix. Like, they're looking for pleasure and excitement. So how can we push this initiative in a realistic way for these newer generations, you know, with more people going away from books to digital platforms, ebooks and all that? How can we ensure that those structures and the mindset change, you know, are promoted among youths? You know, how can we make reading acceptable again? Because there's one initiative I saw in Abuja, Discovery Museum. What it did was to blend digital knowledge and physical knowledge together. And a lot of people, like, now it's on Instagram, everywhere, like, we went to the Discovery Museum and all. So how can we bring that back to make reading acceptable to the future generations in spite of technological disruptions? Yes, so thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, Akilachi, do I go ahead and answer?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
I'll respond. Okay, thank you, Andrew, and for the work you did as a teacher. Very well done to you. And what you saw in your school, the children not knowing about Nigeria, Africa, is a tragedy that unfortunately many of us are proud of. We are proud to send our children to so-called international schools where they are taught a foreign curriculum, you know, and there's nothing wrong with our education system. I'm a proud product, you know, of the system. I mean, Port Harcourt Primary was international, but yeah, by Abuloma, we were learning. I was with a group of ladies about 2 weeks ago in DC, just, you know, highly accomplished ladies, and they're talking, and two of them said how they went to a federal school. And we said one of the things it teaches you is to survive anywhere in the world and about other people's cultures. So yes, there is really a dearth there. Now, to encourage reading, everyone has a part to play. I'll begin with the family. I've already talked about that, how it influenced me, and therefore see the ripple effect of the work I'm doing. So as I said, it's not just parents, but any adults, you know, the young people around you. But hey, if you don't read yourself, what are you going to? So it's not going to be do as I say, but do as I do. So if you're an adult and all the young people around you see is you scrolling on your phone, then you chuck a book at them. Hey, it's not going to be very effective. So sadly, very sad for me, I see parents, you know, in the club, at church, and all that. They want to keep their children quiet. They hand them the phone. I'm like, oh my God, look at an opportunity. And where I can, I talk to them. I say, put a book in their hand. Put a book in their hand, you know, but maybe because it may mean put a book in your own hand. But hey, look at Ben Carson's mom. She wasn't educated. But so if you have failed, let the child not fail. Put a book in their hand. So parents, gift books as gifts. They used to laugh at us because that's the gift we give. Why would you spend so much money on so-called prom dress, you know, eyelashes, extend for children, secondary school, and then tomorrow you say they're not doing well? What are you doing? What example are you showing? What is your priority? With the money in your hands, it's the most important thing, your eyelashes and your hair and all sorts of things. How about sowing into information? The people, then the corporates have a part to play. Many corporate organizations are not sincere about their CSR. We in the book industry will tell you how difficult it is, but they would sponsor things like Big Brother, Niger. I would mention it because I don't see any positive impact on society of such things. So corporates sit up So I've talked about corporates, I've talked about the family, I've talked about the government as well, you know, priorities, values. So this is how it's no magic. There's no magic to it. It just has to be something that is important. When I get on a plane, if I don't have a book, the people around me are in trouble, oh, because I'm like a drug addict without their drugs. I panic. I'm like, oh, how am I going to survive without reading material? Because on the long flights, I'm not a TV person. Nothing's wrong with TV, great information and all that, but I love to bury myself. If I want to relax, then it would be a relaxing reading material, but it would usually be a reading material. That's the addiction. So that's what my parents have produced. And it's positive. And I want to think I've passed it on to my children. So stakeholders, everyone has a part to play, basically.
Yes, everyone has a part to play. Thank you so much for sharing. And just before we go to every other person, I'll ask my final question so we can, if we do have time, even we can then take the remaining questions. Auntie Koko, this is a question we ask every single guest that comes on the Rivers 2050 platform. What is the river state of your dreams? I can guess, but paint the picture for us. Where would you like to see the state in the next 25 years?
The river state of my dreams will be a reading city, a true World Book Capital. It would be a city where we have reading communities. And yes, we would evolve as a society evolves. Whereas I must tell you that the old-fashioned library, I don't think is going anywhere because it has its part to play. You know, I was in the US recently visiting my children, and my son was driving me past. I spotted a library. I said, hey, I've seen a library. I'll be walking down to the library. So there's just that, you know, Professor Sheika says, when I get into the theater, I come alive. When I get into the library, I come alive. So you know, a Port Harcourt, where a real World Book Capital, where you have reading communities, reading circles, maybe knowledge centers. I don't know how they would evolve, that have different hubs, that have different things, where people are having conversations. Or the things about book clubs as well, it's not even just the reading, it's a social interaction, you know, around books. It would be a clean, green river state. It will be a river state where the theater is revived, like the one I grew up in, you know, where there are bookshops and all that. But it would have to be, for us to achieve that, we would have to, again, face the software, because it's what you feed into the computer that will come up. So that's why what you're doing is so great. So from now, you know, we can start feeding that in. It will be the river states that Duncan Mighty was singing about, a beautiful city. It's the river states that Burna Boy says, I come from a city called Port Harcourt City, and Duncan Mighty says, or who says, I'm a Port Harcourt boy, the one we are proud of.
Duncan.
Yeah, the river state that people come and don't want to leave. A lot of our friends, guys, my husband's friends, came to River State, maybe from the West, and married Rivers girls or married people there, and they just did not want to leave. The river state that the Queen came to and loved, you know, so much. So where there's security, you know, where we are known not just as an energy city, but as a book city. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Auntie KK. A real World Book Capital, clean and green. I'm so glad you added green, because that is something I've been enjoying in this city here that I so wish we can adopt.
Yes, in Calabar. Calabar is
Port
beautiful.
Harcourt and River State. Yes. Yes. So thank you so much. You indeed, hearing your story, the internal motivation from your home background, I think you were the perfect person to actually execute the World Book Capital project. Really, the perfect person. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Do we want to move on to, okay, I don't see any more hands up. Fantastic. Any chats? So are we moving on to the rapporteur now?
Yes, I can wrap up now. Thank you so
Okay, you
much,
can wrap up
Auntie.
now.
Yes, thank you so much, Auntie KK. I know Clinton had dropped a comment in the chat talking about the need for us to document these historical events, and that's why we hope that part of the, I mean, Auntie KK had mentioned that there's also a working book as well. The Port Harcourt in Pictures book as well. There's some of these books that are on there.
Yeah, we've documented, though. We
Yeah.
have documented.
Yeah. So I think, Clinton, most of the thing will also be to ensure that we inform more people of these things. I know that the Port Harcourt story in pictures is on Amazon as well, and that's available online. So I think it's just making sure people get to know more about this. But yeah, and KK, thank you so much. You've given us much more time than we even asked for. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Kela, for wonderful moderation. We've also had the Honorable Commissioner for Health as well here on the conversation. She said, as far as KK is speaking, she's definitely going to be here. Adeze Ore.
Oh, thank you, Dr.
So thank you.
Adeze.
So thank you so much, Dr. Are, for being here all through the conversation. And yeah, we'll be wrapping up now. I've just put a couple of links in the chat for those who are joining this conversation for the first time, like Mr. Dimabo as well. The links are there if you want to like learn more about what we're doing and to also join us in the task force. Do well to check that out. There's also Rivers 2050 Vision Survey that is giving citizens the chance to be able to share their ideas on what River States should look like over the next 25 years. Same question we asked to Auntie KK. So please take that survey, put in your insights, your thoughts, your questions. It would ask you to rank things based on what you think development issues that basically that you care about the most. So do well to also check that out. Kela had preempted this in September. We'll be speaking to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Youth. That's Kela's mom, as well as Mr. Ibifuru Asao as well. For the Ministry of Youth, we'll be discussing things around River State youth policy. We've not had a youth policy for a long time, but she's been able to fight her way through to ensure that we get a youth policy. So we'd get her to sort of like break down how young people can benefit from the youth policy and some of the things that Kela mentioned around the values reorientation and the mindset shift and stuff like that. So we'll be speaking more about that with her. And Mr. Asao had built SimForest, a global company in Port Harcourt, despite all of the odds. And we're speaking to him too to see how he was able to do that and build all the IT infrastructure for us in our city. So that's it. So please stay in tune. Our social media, our websites, will be sharing all these information on how you can join these various conversations. Thank you so much again, Auntie KK, and thanks everyone that joined. Have a great rest of your weekend and have a great rest of your week as well.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.